It's martini time. Welcome, everybody. Remember, I have some guests over here. They're in the kitchen, so if you hear any noise, I told them to shut up, but you know. Anyway, welcome to martini time. If you watched yesterday's show, I talked about a frog as the guardian or threshold guardian who would retrieve treasures from the unconscious and bring them up into the surface mind. Like if you need insight, or if you need insight to solve a problem or get yourself out of a fix, the answer is in the unconscious. But the problem is that the conscious mind does not know how to communicate with the unconscious, so it needs a mediator. And a frog is a good mediator. My friend who's in the kitchen, when I told him I was talking about frogs, he pulled this out of his bag, and it was a little frog that he carries with him all the time. And he said that when he bought his home, he was digging in the garden and he found this little frog, which is kind of like, you know, these. I would take that as being very auspicious and carry it around too. But today I wanted to talk about the Virgin, Mary, that is. I have a shelf in there with all my little odds and ends that I collect, and this is the one that I really love. The reason I wanted to talk about the Virgin Mary, because I try to communicate the way I see these religious figures and fairy tale figures like frogs and whatever, is that I see them metaphorically, which means that they can be useful for awakening insight. They can be useful in helping you get out of a fix. They could be useful in evolving your consciousness. But we have to understand a way to approach them. So, and I get this Virgin, the most of my understanding I get from who has helped me most is my study of Joseph Campbell. So that I'm not just telling you what he said, but I'm telling you, but it's the way I've discovered the meaning and the use of these metaphors in my own life. And the Virgin Mary, for instance, is from the past. It comes out of religion, and there's different ways of the way Catholicism looks at the Virgin. Other cultures look at the Virgin, or Protestantism does, or the secular people. But the big problem with the Virgin is that it's not rational. How can a virgin have a child? So that wipes it out right there. So what is the meaning of the Virgin Mary? But metaphorically, she means an empty mind, an empty womb. That's what a virgin mind, virgin womb is. It's empty. So if you want to get the Virgin to help you in your evolution of consciousness or in your getting out of a fix or whatever, you have to empty your mind. So you have to release or surrender any attachments, any beliefs, any expectations, any hopes, any desires. All of these are attachments in the womb. In other words, so the womb becomes pregnant with your own desires. The womb is inseminated with your own attachments, with your own preferences. You know, all this has to go. Has to be empty. But we don't want to empty because even me has to go. You see, our attachment to me is a false idol. You know, so even that has to go. And that's not easy, you know. So we really need, that's why we need these intermediaries that we can, because they become useful in surrendering our attachments to future. See, all attachments are to time. See, if even me, my sense of me is in time, my past, my history, my expectations, my hopes, that's all time. My desires, my fears, everything that the mind does is going to be in time. But emptiness is not time. Empty is empty of time and attachments to future and past, desire, and all that. So the prayer of surrender, which can be made to the Virgin as an intermediary, is not a prayer to get fixed by some god or goddess, but a prayer to empty and surrender, you see. So that there's an element of faith in that too, because you can't surrender yourself unless you have faith that there is some existence there when you die, which is what surrender is. When you surrender your attachments, that's a death. You're letting go. You're letting go of your hopes and expectations and surrendering it up to, well, that's where it's kind of like having a teddy bear. You know what I mean? The child has a teddy bear. He knows the teddy bear is not a real bear, but he loves his teddy bear. So the child understands that the teddy bear is an intermediary to activate his heart, right? So the frog, so the Virgin Mary, and the Buddha, and all of these mythical religious figures are useful when we can understand them as metaphors and not as some figure or some statement of fact in history in the past. A statement of fact in history in the past has no use other than information and making you feel like you know something or that you're certain and you're in the right path or tradition and all that, you see. That's about it as far as it goes. But as far as a transformational power to actually transform your consciousness into one that has a problem, into one that has no problem, to go from problem to no problem, from suffering to the end of suffering, from the unconscious to the conscious, requires a surrender and a faith, and an intermediary helps for the mind to have some form to hold on to, while the heart knows that there is no form there to hold on to, because you surrender even to false idols. If you're going to pray to the Virgin Mary, you have to surrender the Virgin Mary. If you're going to get to an empty mind, the whole works has to go. You know, even the Virgin, even the Buddha and the God, even Jesus, everything has to go. You know, in order for the transformational process to really work. Otherwise, you're just changing information in the mind. This is a favorite one here. Even this. This is my favorite little snow globe. You see, that's a little Buddha, you know. So this is a busy mind. This is a noisy mind. This is a mind full of attachments and fears and thoughts and everything. And this is a timeless mind. This is an empty mind. This is a clear mind, you see. And the way to get to it is to stop moving. So that's the surrender, is giving up effort, giving up mental effort, you see. Because you know that mental effort is just going to create that. When you see that your mental effort that's mental effort. So when you see that mental effort is just creating more cloudy mind, the heart activates and you begin to surrender. You see, because mental effort does not work. And the natural state of the mind is emptiness. The natural state of your nature is clarity, you see. But the way to get to clarity and emptiness and silence and peace is through surrender. And so my point is here that you need an intermediary that's useful to you. It doesn't make any difference whether it's Buddha, the Mary, Jesus, the frog, whatever you see. You want to use something that connects with you, and you create the metaphor. It's not created for you. It's not created by some religion or something. It's you have to create it. It is a creative act of yours to create the mediator between your conscious and the unconscious powers of the deep, which is you. So let that be our martini for the day, and I'll see you tomorrow.